Hey guys, I'm hanging out in my vegetable garden. So today I am going to be doing some succession planting. I really like using garden boxes to plant my annuals. So I'm changing plans a little bit this year. I originally had planted my dahlia tubers back in my cutting garden, but the more I'm discovering my cutting garden and learning about it every single year, I'm realizing it's gonna be better to plant my annuals in my garden boxes. The first reason is I have more control of the soil. Annuals tend to like a little bit more of that loamy, well-draining soil, a little bit more nutrient rich. Back in my cutting garden, it's a little bit more dense and has heavy clay. So I'm going to be putting all perennials back there. Secondly, for some reason back there, it's just completely infested with grasshoppers. I am going to have to do neem oil next spring and try to get them under control. So they just chomp down everything like crazy back there. Up here in my garden, I don't see nearly as many of them. They're not as aggressive. The chickens hang out here a little bit more, so they're probably doing a little bit more damage on those grasshoppers. So that is probably the main reason why I'm moving all of my annuals up here. Also, it's a little bit easier to keep the weeds under control. Annuals just don't like competition with weeds. So I'm gonna be planting not as many annuals from here on out. I don't really care to have a ton of bouquets in my house. I do like to experiment with a few every now and then, trying to make my garden maintenance a little bit easier. So I will be bringing the dahlias up to this garden box where I just feel like I have more control in these garden boxes and they're just easier to grow. So I'm going to show you what I have going on right here. It's going to be a lot of succession planting. My cold hardy annuals are still out in bloom, but I'm going to be taking them all out, going to cut a bunch of them. I'm going to let my kids sell a few, and so that I can start putting my heat loving annuals in here. So I'm not going to be growing a lot of annuals here in the future, just ones that I know do super good in my climate, that love it and are easier to grow. Just wanted to show you an example of what's going on here. So this is my Augustachi, great for cutting, blooms a long time. I've got some of my bee balm. So back here, it is my cutting perennial garden slash pollinator garden. And with perennials, they're just a lot tougher than your annuals at the beginning. So if they do get nibbled on, they're gonna bounce back a little bit better. But see how there's just no nibbling on any of these? Not one little bite. The grasshoppers haven't touched them, the chickens haven't touched them. But let's check out the dahlias. These have been pretty much been nibbled down to absolutely nothing. This one has got a lot of damage. Everything likes to eat dahlias. This one, you guys, this has happened to me last year. They do grow and recover and get beautiful blooms, but I don't want to deal with this at the beginning. It's very frustrating. Here is my Heliopsis that they haven't touched. There's a little nibble right there, but they're just strong and tough, so they can handle this all a little bit better. The verbena is just fine. The snapdragons. Oh, and another thing with annuals is they just need so much staking. So if I don't get to them, look at that, it's just flopping over. This is my snapdragon. I just don't want to deal with that. Baptisia, a beautiful spring cutting flower, has been untouched. So I will show you where I'm planting some dahlias. My husband's gonna be succession planting with some corn, so I've got to remove my stalk right here, and then I think he'll put his corn right here. My ranunculus are dying off, so they're all yellow, so I'm gonna lift those up and store them and plant them next January, February. But see how they look like they're completely dead? That's a good time. This one isn't quite there yet, so I'll probably leave it in the ground. But I've got a lot of ranunculus in here. And so I think this is where I'm gonna be putting my dahlia tubers. And this way, it's a little bit easier to stake up these little boxes. So there's gonna be a few things I'll need to stake up, like the dahlias. And what else am I planting in here? I'm gonna actually be putting some zinnias and cosmos over here. So this is the cold hardy stuff. It's about ready to be lifted and taken out. I'll leave my zinnias and cosmos over there for now this year, but next year this is where I'm going to be planting them, and then I'll put some other perennial right up there. So these are all the cold hardy stuff that with the heat they're going to start to fizzle, so I can go ahead and take these out, put some beautiful flowers in here. My husband will probably plant some more corn right here so we can get succession of corn, and it's delicious. And then right over here is my larkspur. Love this one. Gonna plant this every single year along with that stalk. Stalk's been incredibly tough. Larkspur's super tough. And then my poppies are super tough. So once these are done blooming, which will be here in a little bit, I will lift these up. I'm not sure what I'm gonna put in here yet, but another heat loving annual of some sort. I like celosia quite a bit, so I might plant that. Anyways, I'm just giving you an idea of the different things that you can plant throughout the year to get flowers. all gardening season. Oh, look at the big bumblebee. It loves it. So here is some snapdragon that I actually staked up. So I can deal with staking 3 or 4 garden boxes, but the cutting garden back there is just too much. Time to say goodbye to the stock. Now I'll enjoy it a little bit longer in the house, but I sure enjoyed this. It's kind of funny. I keep getting one yellow flower. I got them in my tulips. I had one yellow flower out of my 1,000 tulips, and now I have one yellow stalk out of probably 120 stock. Now that this is basically prepped, I do have a few weeds I've got to pull, and this one I'm gonna go ahead and lift my dahlias back here from the cutting garden. I have about 13 dahlias in here. So I chose colors that I know I'm gonna love year after year. So after this year, I'm gonna get double the amount of dahlias, and I'll be able to fill up this whole garden box and maybe another one. But I spaced them out about 18 inches apart, and then I just kind of staggered them throughout here. Some of them are tiny. This is my little Crichton honey. Isn't that funny how they label them? I kind of like it now. I remember which one this was because I couldn't quite remember. These are a little bit smaller. But before they had leafed out in my cutting garden, I just planted these about 1 to 2 inches below the soil. I did have a few that got a little bit too wet and rotted. I think there was only one of those. I'm hoping I have a few more pop up back there so I can bring them and put them in here, because I know there are some more that haven't come up yet. A few pros with planting your dahlias in the garden boxes is it's going to be easier for me to stake them too. A lot of these varieties are going to get huge and they require staking, and then I can protect them a little bit better from bugs in this more contained area. But it sure is fun to do succession planting, and now I get to enjoy these dahlia tubers for the rest of the gardening season. They do tend to come out late summer to fall for me. That's kind of what I plan on doing. I don't really care to have dahlia tubers all season long. They're just such beautiful flowers that if I get a month out of them, I'm overly joyed. So that's kind of my plan with my dahlias. So as far as my cutting garden goes, I'm gonna be actually putting more roses in the spots where these dahlias were. Just gonna put a lot of roses. It's kind of turning into my rose garden. I can't get enough of different types of roses, and I like to have them back there more than I do in my flower beds. Anyways, I hope you guys are having a great day. Thanks for supporting my channel. I really, really appreciate it. Anyway, I know I keep saying that, but it's super fun. And I have a lot of fun different projects coming up. So just keep following, keep liking the videos, and keep subscribing. And I will see you in the next one. Have a great day gardening. Talk to you later. Bye.